Alright, this is what I plan on doing today. This test is set up very similar in the same vein as the test you will take tomorrow. This is a pre-test. You don't have to turn it in. If you say, I don't even want to do it, then don't do it. Alright, there are two problems on it. This is my plan. I'm hoping between now and about 30 to 45 minutes from now, we can do number one as a class. So you can see pretty much what we'll be looking for. Alright, then you can turn around and try to do number two. And I'll give you an hour or so to work on that. Then I'll come back and I'll do number two. Does that make sense? Alright. And then when you come in here tomorrow is going to be the only test that's going to be in this format. Alright. The other ones won't be. This test is designed, as it says on the top here, to cover chapters 1 through 6. I patterned almost exclusively this test after the one that Mr. Smith gave last week to his students in St. Louis. He wrote it. Now, that said, I'm not saying he wrote it. It's terrible. It's just the opposite. He did an excellent job, as he always does. All right? So, what I'd like you to do, please, I've already got it running, and I just want to show you what it'll look like when it's all done. So we go home, and we're just going to put this stuff in there. This is just basically the write-up of the test. All right, do we have to do that? Of course not, but just so we've got something on the home page. All right, then we're going to build, as a class right now, a temperature converter. All right, so you come in here, and it's not Fahrenheit to Celsius. He did Fahrenheit to, what is it, Kelvin, I guess it is. So I put in 34, and you can see the answer that you get. Okay, and you can also go to an MPG calculator, which I can put in here, again, 400 miles. I use 10 gallons of gas, and the price per gas is $3.50 a gallon, let's just say. So it comes back up, and it tells you your miles per gallon, how much the trip cost, and how much it cost you per mile. Does all that make sense? All the formulas that you need are literally shown back on the home page. They're right there. So here's the two formulas that you need for the temperature conversion, and these are the three formulas that you need. They're also on the piece of paper that I gave you. So you've got them all there. All right? And again, when we do this, you might very well start thinking to yourself, this isn't at all what we've been doing. No, it's not. All right? But the idea was we go over this before we talk about databases and the like in detail. So what we're doing is we're creating what we could have done basically as an HTML/JavaScript application. And you might have even done this one or one similar to it before. But we're doing it as an ASP.NET MVC application. You will have all the components. All right, we'll create a controller for each one of these two things. We'll create a model for each one of these two things. And we'll create one view for each one of these two things. All right? Does all that make sense? Yes? Questions? Then let's start. All right, so I'm going to stop this. In fact, I can keep this up. But I'm going to start up a brand new project. And in order to do that, as you know, I'll have to start up Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project here. And it will be an ASP.NET Web Application .NET Framework C#. It'll be this one here. All right? So not blank, none of that stuff. And again, if you can't find it, you can go in the search box or you can just search in here. So I've got that. You either double click on it or click create. It doesn't matter. Just call it pretest or something like that. I've already got one called pretest. So I'm just going to call mine pretest 2. All right. Again, you're not turning this in, so what you end up calling the stuff and whatever, I want it to be just as easy for you to use as possible. All right. What you very well may want to do tomorrow when you're taking your test, you're going to have two problems that are going to be similar to this, but not the same problems. So what you might want to do is have this up in another window, in another Visual Studio session, so you can refer back to it if you need to. All right? But that's just a suggestion. All right, again, save it where you want. I'm going to save it to the desktop. which is basically where I save everything. All right, make sure it changes. And I'm just calling it Pretest 2. It's no big thing one way or the other. All right, so I'm going to click Create. We want this to be an empty project that has MVC. So make sure that the empty is chosen and the MVC is chosen, please. And click Create. We're not worrying right now about Git or anything else. I'm more concerned with having plenty of time today to go over this first one, take any questions that people have, and then give you time to work on the second one. Does all that make sense? So as we do this, I'm going to close this thing because we don't need it. You know what's in here now. You have seen this before. I don't want to, waste your time on it. We're not going to do anything with databases. Not on this test. Nothing with databases. I can close that if I want to. All right? That's fine. Just gives me a little bit more room to work. I'm not really doing anything with the toolbox either, so it's fine the way it is. All right. Now, you know this as well as I do, that the only thing we have in our Views menu is that local web config file. I'm not going to run this because again, it wouldn't run. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to build a controller. Okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to right mouse click on controllers. I'm going to choose Add and Controller and Empty. If I'm doing this too fast, stop me. All right, so I did right mouse click on controllers, new controller, MVC5 controller, empty, add, and I'm just going to start with my home controller. All right. And you know as well as I do that once I make this home controller, this is what I get by default. All right. So we get this stuff right here. All right, and the good news so far is, guess what? Our home controller is done. There's nothing else we need to put into the home controller, okay? And again, if you don't like this stuff here because it's gray and you say, I'm not going to use it, get rid of it. If it doesn't bother you, leave it there. All right? You could say, well, that's just code bloat. We really don't need it. No, you don't. But if you do want to put it in, you can. All right, or leave it in, I should say. Then do that. All right, so that's the first part. That wasn't hard. So the next thing to do, it's up to us, okay? It's really up to us. But the next thing to do that would make sense would be to right mouse click on our index and choose Add View. All right? And we're not worrying about a model. Why aren't we worrying about a model? Because we don't have one yet. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I could click here, but if I chose this as empty, all it gives me is route config. You're never going to want to use that in here. All right? So I want to leave it as empty without model. And normally, that's the way you'll have it set up for your home controller anyway. All right? So, index, empty without model, which will mean this is empty. It's not a partial view. Let's keep the use a layout page, keep that checked, please. And if yours is not checked for some reason, check it, please. Okay? All right. And you'll notice that right now under views, like I said, now we've got a home folder because we made the home controller, but there's nothing else underneath there except web config. I think everybody can see that. I think everybody would agree with me on that. So I'm going to click Add. And it's going to create an index.cshtml file under my home controller. Everybody see that? But it did other stuff. It went out and it brought in this content folder, which brings in all of the Bootstrap theme CSS and regular CSS stuff. This site CSS, that's for ours. That's our CSS file. All right? And I do want to mention, because there's a couple things that are, I'm not going to say they're real important, but for example, I've seen people already, well, I don't need any of this. They start removing stuff. You don't want to remove that. What's going to happen when we run the program, you're going to have that bar at the top. All right? And if you don't leave the padding top in there, it's going to take whatever you got at the top and push it right up to the top. By putting the padding top of 50 pixels in there, that shouldn't happen. All right? All right. And I think, again, I told you this, but just on the off chance I haven't, let's assume for a second we want to take this file, this site.css, all right? And you'll see it's already in here. Everybody see this? See that line? It's already in there. Would you agree? I mean, I'm not trying to trick you or anything. It's there. But if for some reason it's not there, that shouldn't ever happen. But let's just pretend for a second it's not there. You can just click on the file itself, which means under content, find your site file, you just take it and drag it in, let go, and then it's back. All right? Okay, so we've got all that stuff in there. Okay? So, a couple things to look at. Well, the first thing is we're gonna add some stuff to our home index.cs HTML file. We are going to in just a minute. But before we do that, let's look at our layout.cs HTML file. All right? So I'm bringing this file up right now. This is layout.cs HTML. All right? And I've got an order in which I'm doing stuff. I'm already messing up with my order, but that's fine. All right. You know what this stuff in here means. I don't think there's really anything that's in there that's in this section, in the head. First of all, there's nothing we have to change. But correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody gets everything that's in the head section, correct? All right. I wouldn't mind tomorrow when you're working on this that both in the title here and down in the footer, if you'd replace my with your name. Then anytime I'm grading it, I can just, when I run it, I'll remember whose it is. Now, I don't do that to hold that against you. I don't want you to think, oh yeah, because he knows it's mine, he's going to take points off. No. In an ideal world, we'll have 11 people that'll get 100% in here. All right? So I'm just going to change both those to put my name in there. There and here. So, like I said, we shouldn't have to make any changes. I don't believe I made any changes in here other than the title that I just showed you. Okay, again, we're using Unicode. We're making it responsive. We're setting our title. We're bringing in our style CSS file. We're bringing in the bootstrap min CSS file. And we're bringing in Modernizer. All right? So that brings us down to here. Now, you don't have to do this. What I'm about to show you, you don't have to do it. But I'm going to save this, okay? And I'm at the index. I'm at the layout. So I'm just going to bring up my index file, which doesn't have too much in it. All right? But right now, I'm just going to right mouse click on it and choose View in Browser. I just want to make sure it runs. It's not going to do much of anything right now. And that's fine. Okay, that's about what I'd expect right now. Okay, not too much. So we're going to start making some changes to that, and that's fine. Again, we want it to look more like this. And if you say to yourself, you know what, I don't really want to do all that stuff. He's not, he's not turning it in we're not turning it in anyway. Then don't. All right. I will tell you, I'm speaking for myself, and I'm not speaking for all other teachers. I'm speaking for me. One of the questions that I hate the most from people, do I have to? Is when you say that, you're sounding like my kids. And my kids will tell you that other than my oldest, who I spanked once, I've never spanked my kids. But when they say that, I almost want to. Do I have to? All right. Okay. So we're coming in here. This is, of course, giving us that bar, container, header. This all looks good. Button class, span, etc., button. I don't think there's any changes there. All right. Well, right now, as we look at this, you already know this. All right. We got an action link, application, index, home, etc. We got all that good stuff. All right. You know what that stuff is. All right. Well, I want to add 2 more of these. So I'm going to grab this line of code right here, this action link, and I'm going to paste it in twice. All right. Do this any way you want to do it. It really and truly doesn't matter. All right. So the first thing is, as we go in and we start looking at this, what do we have? Well, I'm going to change where it says application name. I'm going to just make that home. Right there. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the way I'm doing it. So it's home, index, home. Now, you maybe have not seen this before. This is something that, that Mr. Smith put in. What you can do in an ASP.NET project is you can create areas. Areas are like basically you can put a mini ASP.NET project inside of your ASP.NET project. Did you hear what I said? You can put a project basically within a project. You can actually put several projects within a project. They're not real projects, they're called areas. We're saying we don't have any areas. All right, I believe you could probably leave that off and it would run just fine. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. All right, in the second one that we put in here, all right, this right here, where it says index, the word index, we're going to change the word index so that it says temperature converter. It's funny, I actually am a good speller. I'm just not a good speller when I have to type it. All right. So for application name for the second one, temperature converter. All right. Then right here where we have home, no. We want this right here to say index after temperature converter. We want in the double quotes index. And after that, we want to put in temp convert. And then another comma. Just like that. All right? I'm not sure why I was going to say. I don't know why it was giving me the error. If I make this smaller, are you able to see all of it? Let's see. All right. Can everybody see that then? Okay. Now, think about what this means. We're going to run it in a couple minutes, but we want to add one more thing first. This is going to give us a hyperlink that says temperature converter that should be up in that navigation bar. When we click that hyperlink that says temperature converter, it should go to the temp convert. It should go to the temp convert controller, which we haven't written yet because we don't have a temp controller, all right, or temp convert controller. All right, we don't have that yet, and it'll call the index method. Does all that make sense? I want to make sure you understand the sequence of what's going on in here. We're already in the home controller here. All right, so we already know it's home, index, home. All right, and I'm sorry, go back, get rid of the word application name. That's why it's screwed up. All right, so temperature converter, index, temp convert, just like home, index, home. This first thing that you see in there, that first thing that's in blue right now, that's what appears as your hyperlink. The second thing that's in here is the method that's going to be called. The third thing is the controller from which that method will be called. Does all that make sense? Sorry, I left the application name in there. That's on me. So this says, say home, but when you click it, go to the home controller and call the index method. This one says, call a temperature converter, and when you click it, go to the temp convert controller and call its index method. And the last one that will be there, this is going to say, I called it MPG calculator. Again, not that it has to be that. And again, it'll be index. But this one, the name of this, all right, that we're going to end up calling over here is MPG calc. Whoops, I don't know what I did, but I did something not good there. All right, hold on a second. All right. Temperature converter, and this was temp convert. All right, and this is, so again, that's temperature converter. All right, that's there, and this, oh, I did have it in there. Jeez Louise. All right, index, temp convert. Okay, and then finally again, MPG calculator. All right. again, it'll be index, and this one will be called MPG Calc. I'm going to shrink that down so that everybody can see everything that I put in there. All right, so the first one is home, index, home. The second one is temperature converter with a space, index, temp convert with no space. The third one is MPG calculator, index, MPG calc with no space. Excuse me. And when we create, please look at the screen, when we create the associated controllers, that's what this one will be called. It'll actually be temp convert controller, and this one will be called MPG calc controller. Does all that make sense to everybody? All right, I mean, this is basically a review of a lot of the stuff that we've already gone over. Okay, all right, I'm thinking we're done, but I want to just quickly double check through here and make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't think we have. All right. Already changed that to my name. I believe that we're done with the layout file. I believe. All right. Now, what I'm going to try to do, again, you don't have to do this yet, but I'm again going to go back to home and just view this in the browser. None of this stuff's going to work yet. I get that. But you see what I have now? If I try to click here, it's not going to work. And it's not going to work because we haven't written a temperature converter controller yet, and we haven't written an MPG calculator controller yet. So we haven't written those. But so far, it looks okay. All right. Again, not that it's fantastic or anything, but it looks okay. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my home controller, and in my home controller, I'm going to go into my index.cs HTML file. Why? Well, as you can see, there's not too much in there right now. Does everybody understand? Look on the screen, please. Okay? Don't put this in. Do not put this in. But does everybody understand that if we had this, if we had that line of code in there, layout equal no, we don't want that in there. That would say don't use any layout. All right? We want to use a layout. So I want it to be just like this. Okay? But I want to add some stuff to it. So I'm going to type, well, I guess there's a little bit to type, but I'll type it too. Okay? So I'm going to put some stuff in here. Again, it'll probably take me 5 to 10 minutes to type this. All right? In fact, why don't we do this? We'll come back and do it later. The problem is, again, right now, when we run it, that's all it's going to say. Okay? So if you want it to look like mine will end up looking when we get done, all you have to do is basically type in the stuff that's in the test page I gave you. All right? But I don't think you really want to watch me type for 10 minutes, and I don't really want you to watch me to type for 10 minutes. So we'll just leave it like that. All right? So let me take a look inside of here. There are some things I am going to want to put in here. All right? Like what? Well, I'm going to start putting the stuff in. In other words, I've got document, but I at least want to put in my doc type, my HTML tag, and at least my head. I won't have a body in there. You with me? I won't have an actual body in there. All right? In fact, I can do that. I can put this H2 tag inside of the body. It probably would be cleaner anyway. So I'm going to come in and do my doc type, HTML. I'm going to put in my HTML tag. You know how it automatically gives me the other tag. All right. I'll move that H2 tag later. I'm not worried about it right now. But I do want to put in my head stuff because there's a few things I want to make sure I put in there. I want to take control here. Meta, name equal viewport. You know this stuff. You've seen it already. Content equal width, device width, all right, I'm going to give this a title, and I just put in here Pretest home because it's the home page. Again, I don't really care that much what you call it. I believe I probably don't need these links because I already put this stuff into my layout file, but I'm going to put them in here anyway. I'm going to add my Bootstrap min CSS and my style. Again, I don't think I need them, but here's my Bootstrap min CSS. I'm just going to drag it down. There that one is. There's my site file right here. So I'm going to drag that in. All right. So I've got those two things in there. All right. And let's see. That should be it as far as what I need in my head. So let's put in the body tags. And I'm just going to grab that H2. And I'm going to throw that in here. Now, what I just changed was my CS HTML file. You know that. You saw me change it. But if I do go back to my actual program and I refresh, okay, some reason I lost the word index, and that might be what I said before. It might be a weird thing with this, but I'm not worried about it. The point is, basically, it looks the same as it did. All right? Okay. So I've got all that stuff. Why am I telling you that? Because at least I'm finished with that. All right? I will type in a little extra text later, but that's pretty much it. All right? So when we looked at this, when we ran it, you've got a temperature converter and an MPG converter. There's really not much difference as far as which one is harder. Again, you've got the instructions on how to do each one on the test page. So I just randomly put them in this order and pick the temperature one that we do together. Everybody with me? All right, so let's do that one right now. I'm going to stop my program run. Okay. I'm going to close a bunch of stuff that I don't need to have opened anymore, at least for now. And the next thing I want to do is I want to come over and I want to come to controllers. All right. And I want to right mouse click on controllers, choose add, choose controller. It'll be another empty one. All right. And this will be called temp convert controller. You know that name because it's the one I showed you before. You have to make it the same name as the one we put in the layout file for it to be called correctly. So again, I called it temp convert controller. And again, if you really you say, oh, I don't like that name, it's not that big a thing one way or the other. All right. So I'm going to put that in, and we have to actually add some code into this one. All right. This is our get, just to return the view. We don't have to change that, and I don't have to put this in, but I'm going to put in here HTTP get. You don't have to do that. That's redundant what I just did. I added this line. It's redundant, but I put it in for me. All right? Now, what we're going to do, just so you know, I'm going to put in approximately 7 or 8 lines of code. I'm going to get an error. I'm telling you in advance, I'm going to get an error. The reason I'm telling you that, and the reason I'm going to get an error, is I'm going to refer to the model that we'll create in a minute. Did you hear me? So that error will go away in just a minute. All right, but this is my get. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say post. You don't have to put that in if you don't want to. All right, temp convert. Oops. You don't have to put in that comment if you don't want to. But I'm going to put in here HTTP post. All right. So there's my get, and this will be my post. Now, you know this already. Look on the screen, please. This is important. Bless you. That if I just do this, if I just do that, I'm going to get an error message. What am I doing right there? I am overloading the index method. I have 2 methods that are both public, both return an action result, and both are called index. Would you agree with that? But if I want to overload methods like this, what's in the parentheses has to be different. They currently are not different. That's why I'm getting the error message. So I have to put something in there. This is where I'll get the error. So I'm going to type in here temp convert model. And it's going to give me an error because it says, I don't know what the heck you're talking about with this temp convert model thing. I have no idea what that means. We'll fix that in just a minute. All right? Now, I'm going to go back for a second because I'm trying to show you the code I'm about to put in, what it's doing. All right? So when I go back to the original one, I thought I had it. Maybe I don't. Isn't it? When I go back to the original one that I was showing you, the one that I've already done, I'm going to run this again. I want you to understand something, or at least begin to understand something. All right? So when I go here, this is what we want to have happen. All right? When I click convert, I can click convert because one of 3 or 4 things happened. Probably 3. I can click convert with nothing in it. And if I do that, look what we get. Please enter a temperature. Okay? I can click convert and put something in it that is invalid. All right? Or I can click it and put in something that is valid. Does all that make sense? All right, so I can do any of those. The reason I'm telling you that is what we're going to put in our code. This is the other one, so let me get rid of that. What we're going to put in our code now is this: if not model state dot is valid. What that line of code will do. What that if statement does, I just showed you 3 things. I showed you entering nothing. I showed you entering nothing. I think you'd all agree with that. All right. I showed you entering a non-numeric value, and I showed you entering a valid value. This if statement, the code that's in here, it's just one line we're putting into line 24. All right? That's going to handle the cases if we put nothing in or we put a non-numeric value in. Why? Because the model state is not valid. To say not is valid is the same thing as saying it's invalid. There is not a method called invalid, model state.invalid. That's just the way they wrote it. So it's kind of backwards logic. This would say that the thing is valid. But putting this here means it's not valid. So again, I'm just going to put a comment here. The if is true if either A, nothing is input, or B, a non-numeric value is input. All right? And if either one of those are the case, all I want to do is basically return back to my home page. All right? So I'm going to say return view index model. All right? And we still have to fix this thing. We will in just a minute. But that's handling the case of being invalid. All right? Look on the screen because this is an important topic. All right? Now, don't type this. Okay, this handles the invalid case. So I could put a comment here, don't do this, and say input was valid. And then I could put an else here. Would everybody agree with that? I could do that. But if it was invalid, I've already returned. So if I get down to this point, the input had to have been valid. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten to that point. So there's no sense in putting in an else. If you put an else in there, all you're doing is you're making the processor do work it does not have to do. All right? And, especially if you're ever working on any kind of an application that's time dependent, you don't want to do that. All right? So if I get down to here, I'm going to say this. Model.Celsius equals model.Fahrenheit minus 32m divided by 1.8m Remember that M means it's decimal. All right? And model dot Kelvin equals model dot Celsius. Whoops. I have to fix that. Plus, oops, not minus, plus 273.15 M. And when I'm done with that, now I can return this view to the model. Right? That model that we're just doing right here, I can return that to the controller. Now, and if you look at this, well, it says that look right here. I've got an error. See that? Should have been an extra paren there. All right, so make sure you've got this line right here, my line 27. Make sure there's 2 parens on the end. That's why I had the error. All right? I don't do this stuff on purpose. I just naturally make mistakes. Now, this is the thing. Notice that index thing went away, but we've got that. We have to create a model called temp convert model. And if you remember what our model does, and it's not going to be long, it's maybe 6 or 7 lines we're going to have to put in. Might even be less than that. But what that model does, all right, what the model does basically is just, it holds our data. What's our data in here? We've got 2 pieces of data, correct? A temperature we're going to put in that represents a Celsius temperature and a temperature for Kelvin. That's it. Okay? That's basically, those are, in fact, there's just one input. But we have to figure out what both the temperature is Celsius and what the temperature is Kelvin. We could change this, and if you say, I wish you wouldn't have done Kelvin, I wish you would have just done Fahrenheit, then change it to Fahrenheit. All right? Okay, so we've got all this. This is done. So I'm going to do a file save all, because I haven't saved in a while. So I'm going to do a file save all. Then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to open up inside of models. So I'm going to right click on models, choose add, and choose class. Remember, when we choose a model, that's what we do. All right? Okay, so class. And what are we going to call this? Temp convert model. Temp convert model. Oops, try it again. Temp convert model. That was the name we'd given it previously. Please look on the screen here. See this name right here? That name? The one that was giving us the error? When we create the model, it has to have the exact same name. And I believe it is case dependent. So I'm going to click this. And it gives me that. All right? Now, we've got one input. That input is going to be this, public decimal Celsius get set. Okay? We've got one output. You don't need to put the comments in. I'm just showing you what the input is. Whoops. Public decimal. All right. Kelvin. Get set. Okay? Now, we're almost done with this. We have to just make a couple superficial changes. All right? Everybody hear me? It is possible the person will try to click the button that we're going to put in a minute before they put in a temperature. Did you hear me? Or they're going to try to put in something invalid. So, after the word decimal here, and after the word decimal here, all right, after we put both those in, we're going to put in a question mark, which means it's possible that it could be null. All right? It shouldn't happen, but it's possible it could be null. All right? Also, please look at this. This was what I gave to you. All right? And it says it converts temperatures. Oh, I guess it was Fahrenheit to Celsius also, right? Okay, so we need to add a Celsius. So we want it to look like this. We want to put in a Fahrenheit temperature. That should have been our input. That's okay. We'll fix it. And we'll get these two outputs. So, go back. Sorry. This one right here, make this Fahrenheit. Like I told you, I make plenty of mistakes myself. I don't need any help. All right. And one of these will be Celsius. Okay? All right. This field is our input. Everybody with me? That field's our input. Does that make sense to everyone? Since that's our input, we want there to be something in there. So we're going to make it required. So we're going to come in and put in a data annotation. We're going to say required, and then we'll put in a parenthesis here that says error message equals you must enter a temperature. Does it need that no space there? What's wrong with this? Required, paren, error message equals please enter a temperature. That's actually right. Oh, we don't have that using statement in there, right? The using system.data annotations. If I put my mouse here and I click, we need that using statement. You can either manually add that right here or do the way I did it. All right. Now, I can run it and the logic is there. Is everybody with me? I can run it and my logic is there. Problem is, I haven't built my user interface yet. There's no view. And if the view that's there, if there is something, there's nothing in it. There's a temp convert with nothing in it. See that? So right now, even if nothing will happen when I run it. Okay? So let's go add that. Again, there's different ways of doing this. The way we've been doing it is we go into our controller. All right, why is that giving me an error still? Because it wants another using statement. Using pretest2.models. I went back to the controller. Now, though, the error says I need that using statement. Put that in. Now my errors are all gone. So I added that using statement right there. And I added that using statement to the temp convert controller. Again, if you don't want these ones in gray, just get rid of them. If they don't bother you, leave them there. It's up to you. All right, but now that error is gone. Okay, I'm going to go over my index method right here, right there. I am going to right mouse click on the index method and I'm going to choose add view. All right. It'll be called index. Please look at the screen. We don't want this to be empty without models. This will be empty, but we want it to use our temp convert model. Please look at the screen. I don't care what you're doing right now. Please stop. When you create your own, when you do the other one, and you get to this point, you will create a view for the MPG calculator. You will do this. You will make it index, you will make it empty, and then you will choose MPG calc model. Does that make sense? We are associating this view with the model. The model is holding our data, all right? And this is going to hold basically the output of those calculations we put in the controller. All right? So you'll have to do the same thing. Now, that said, you're working on it, and you're like, I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe you just forgot it, whatever. Okay? Then just raise your hand when you're doing the other problem. So I'm going to choose temp convert model. There it is. I want it to keep here on use a layout page. I want that to be checked. And I'm going to click add. All right. Right now, as you can see, not too much stuff in it. All right. And probably, I should have typed this out and given it to you, because there's about 50 lines. But I'm going to type them, even though it's going to take a few minutes. Why? Because there's some stuff in here we have not yet talked about. So as I type it, it'll give me a chance to say, this means this, etc. All right? So I'm going to use that H2. I'm going to put that down a ways. And I'm going to start typing. Typing what? Well, I'm going to start with my doc type. All right, I'm immediately going to put in my beginning and ending HTML tags. I'm immediately going to put in my beginning and my ending head tags. And I'm immediately going to put in my beginning and my ending body tags. Again, it's not mandatory that you do your stuff in the order I'm doing it. Not at all. All right? But I did just come in here and I started. I'm creating my template, for lack of better words. All right? So in my head section, all right, same kind of thing we did before. Meta, name equal viewport, content equal width equal device dash width. All right. A title. And I'm just calling a temperature converter. You don't like my titles? Use your own. All right. Why is it giving me an error there? I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this all goes in the head. Thank you. There we go. All right, so title. We want to link to our Bootstrap min. I don't want to type that. So I'm going to find that under content. There's my Bootstrap min CSS. So I'm going to drag that in. Okay. And that should be good. All right, I believe that's everything I need in the head section. Okay. All right. So now I'm down to my body. Don't need this really, but if I want, I can keep that index thing in there, but I'm just going to remove it, period. I'm putting my own content in there. Any questions? I'm asking you this. Any questions on what any of that means? You all should know enough by now that that should be basically second nature to you. All right? I had one of the first year students ask me this morning, it's a good question too. All right? They asked me, they said, hey, we're going over media queries, and we were going over this line. They had been using it, but they weren't exactly sure what it meant. And I said, well, that line is used for a few different things. Number one, it's saying viewport, and that just means whatever device you're using. And for lack of better words, this means use as much width as you've got. All right? Now, sometimes it doesn't have it on here, but sometimes in a regular HTML file, you'll see that initial scale equal 1, which means 100%. All right? They don't put it in here for whatever reason. Okay, so I'm in the body here. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to put in a little bootstrap and a few other things. Main class equal container. Not May, it's main. Sorry. Boy, oh boy. There we go. All right. So inside of main, I will put in an H1 tag here that says temperature converter. Okay. I'm going to start moving this down a bit. Hopefully everybody is up to there where you're putting stuff into your body. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to create, listen to this, I'm going to create a form. It's going to be very simple. It's going to have a label that says like Fahrenheit temperature. It's going to have a text box where you can enter the Fahrenheit temperature. And it's going to have a button that says convert. That's basically my form. Does all that make sense? It's very simple. And then after that, I'm going to have a div, and that's going to hold my answer that's going to show my Fahrenheit temperature and my Kelvin temperature. All right, and that's basically it. All right, I'm going to put some script tags and some other stuff in here, but there's not a lot. Now, to use this, we're going to use, no pun intended, because I'm about to use a using statement, but we're going to use one of those HTML helpers, one that's called begin form. All right, and I'll tell you what, because I mean we've been in here now close to an hour. I'll put in the next 5 or 6 lines, okay, maybe a couple more, and then we'll take a break, and I'll put in the rest when you come back from the break. All right, but I'm going to do this as just one lecture. We got a couple people missing today, so if they do want to watch it tonight, it'll just be in one lecture. And I haven't only been going about 50 minutes. All right, so I'm going to start by coming in here and saying at using. At meaning it's going to be razor. Notice using, it picks it up in the razor syntax. And I'm going to tell it HTML.begin form. Okay? Now I can keep typing. After that HTML begin form, I can keep typing. Okay? I could just, if I wanted to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a left paren here, which means I'm going to need another paren inside of here, which is fine. All right? But I want to start putting in here what it is I'm going to want to type. All right? So, index. And let's just hold on for a second and take a look at what's in here, okay? All right, so let me put the stuff in and then we'll go back and look at it. Temp convert, form, method, post, HTML attributes, new, class equals form hyphen inline and then these two parens. Okay, I can already spell. There is no word udges. That's a mistake. All right. HTML attributes, I don't even know what that word is. All right. Now, looks like my errors all went away except for the end. So I just want to see if I'm missing anything. Okay? All right. Using HTML begin form, paren, index, temp convert, form without form method post, HTML attributes new, class equal form inline. Okay? That all looks good. The reason I'm getting this is it needs something to put inside of there. Notice now I put in curly braces and everything looks hunky-dory, as they say. All right? What this is doing is it's creating, all right, it's creating a form. It's letting me know that the form is associated with the temp convert controller's index method. And it's letting me know this is what I want to have happen when I choose the post. Remember I had an HTTP get and an HTTP post? The post means that there's going to be some kind of action. All right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in a div. All right? And in that div, we're going to put a little bit of bootstrap in here. Class equal form group MB minus 2. That's just a sizing thing. All right? So inside of here, we're first going to put in a label. All right? Class equals MR-2. Again, it's a sizing thing. And that label should actually say Fahrenheit. right? And then our label. All right. And I didn't spell Fahrenheit right, did I? When we get done, what this really should do is this line that you see right here should create a line for us that does the equivalent of label 4 equal Fahrenheit slash label. That's the same way that we would have done it had we been writing straight HTML. But we're using the helper so it writes it for us. All right? Bear with me, a line or two more, then we will take a break. All right? So after that label, we've got 2 more lines. All right? So we're going to write in here another HTML helper. So at HTML.textbox4. And here's the first time, I think, that you're going to type in a lambda statement. X equal greater than X dot Fahrenheit. No. I'm going to run out of room, so I'm putting this on more than one line. Did you all hear me? You can keep typing if you want on the same line. It's totally up to you. All right? Hold on. HTML. Hold on. I should have given you a break. I need one. All right. Fahrenheit. HTML attributes. All right. So Fahrenheit, HTML attributes, new. There we go. At class equals form control MR -2. Now, that should be it. Let's double check and make sure there are no errors in here. You can already see there's something. I think I'm missing, at the end of this, I'm missing a parenthesis. All right. Last line, then we're breaking. Button. Type equals submit. Yeah, that's, I just pulled it there. It's back. All right, at least temporarily. Class equals bootstrap, so it's button primary, so it'll be blue. All right, you don't like that, you can make it red if you want it to be danger or whatever. Convert. And your button tag. All right, let me move this over. So that's what you should have right now in your body section. All right, I have literally 1, 2, 3, probably 10 more lines to go, but I don't want to do them because I'll make a mistake doing them. So let's just take about 15 minutes, 14. Let's come back at 1:50. We should be able to finish this hopefully by 2 o'clock. All right. All right, I'm going to continue on. Like I said, there's not much more to go here. So I just put in that div statement. Now I'm going to put in another div statement. So this is basically handling printing the output, okay? This is going to handle any error messages that we might have. All right? So again, I am outside of the curly braces for that using statement, okay? Again, I'm going to run out of room, so I'm just putting this down on the next line. You can keep typing. Let's see. Okay. I've got about 5 more lines to put in, then we're going to drag a couple things in that you'll see in a minute. All right? Somebody tell me, do you remember? Okay, I'm just going to put this in. Don't worry about typing for a second. I want you to look at this, please. All right, we're going to add something to that in just a second. Okay, we're going to put in curly braces and a line or two in there. But the point is this. This is saying in English, we have put something in there that is of the right format. Remember, our only input is Fahrenheit. So it's saying, did we put something numeric in there? If we didn't, that'll be caught. If we leave it blank, that'll catch that. So if one of those things happen, if either it's invalid or no input, so if either one of those things happen, all right, we're going to put in here, okay, so this says if it's not equal to null, and this says this is not equal to null. So in English, this is saying if we had valid data, okay, so then it is called and it is figured out what our Celsius temperature is and what our Kelvin is. It already did that. So Celsius, that should be it for what we have to type in. I will leave that there for a minute. And then we're going to add 3 script tags. Okay. we're going to check. I think we can do it in 2 script tags, so we're going to find out in just a second. So this says if we put a valid temperature in for Fahrenheit, print out the word Celsius, followed by the Celsius, and we did that formula already inside of the controller, followed by degrees C, and then put in Kelvin, followed by what we figured out for Kelvin, degrees K. The ampersand DEG, put the little dot there that you sometimes see by degrees. Okay, just a little formatting. Oh, let me move that over, I'm sorry. There. Now, we need to add here jQuery, and we need to add our Bootstrap min.js. Paul also added a file you probably have never heard of called Popper. Don't worry about it. It's if you use pop-ups. We're not using any pop-ups in here, so I don't think we need Popper. It doesn't hurt to put it in like he did. All right. He went out to the internet and found the latest versions of everything. So the latest version of jQuery, the latest version of Bootstrap, etc. But I don't think we need to do that. I think what we can do, if you look on the screen here, is I can come down to where it says scripts. I can find jQuery. Okay, and I can probably use the minified one. jQuery 3.3.1 MNS. So, whoops, I'm sorry. Oh, I've opened it. Didn't mean to, but I opened it. Okay. Get back to the right file. All right. But I want to just take that file and drag it here. So that'll add that one. And I also want to add the Bootstrap min.js file. Okay, and there's Bootstrap min.js right there. The order does matter. Make sure you put the jQuery one first and then the Bootstrap one. All right. After you have done that, I'm going to do a file save all. I'll come right back to this, but I want to see if it works. So I'm going to go to my home page, and I'm going to run it right from my index. I want to see if it works. Now again, I could get an error. It's possible I mistyped something. I already have. Most of the ones that I mistyped, I think I found. But there's home index. Now look at the difference. Now when I type temperature converter, see what I get? All right. Then I'm going to put 32 in here and click convert, and there's my answers. All right. We could add another button here if we wanted to that said clear, where we would clear all this information out, clear the input, and put our cursor there. We could have done that. He didn't ask for that. Now, please look on the screen. Let's look at those two conditions. There's no input. You must enter a temperature. Where did it get this from? You must enter a temperature. It got that from right here. You must enter a temperature. See that? All right. Because it was a required field. All right. And the other one, what if I put in something non-numeric? That is not valid for Fahrenheit. That's a system message. Did you hear me? That's a system message. All right. And it's letting us know it's a numeric field, and we put something non-numeric in there. The other one was because it was a required field. Here we've got input, but the input is invalid. Does all that make sense? All right. And that is it for the first one. So, questions? Yes.
So when we converted a number, right? How can we put the number
on the next line?
Yeah.
I think when you put in that output tag, it automatically does a break. Now, I'd have to go in and Google. There probably is a way if you want it on the same line. Or there might be. There might not be. All right. Now, what you have left then It's 2 o'clock, all right? And I'm going to give you an hour to see what you can do. And if you get almost nothing done, it's okay. Because at 3, because I want to make sure we have enough time, I'll do the other one. Does that make sense? And then if there's any time left, you want to pretty yours up or do whatever, you can. You all know this, though. If you look at this, we can go home. We can go to temperature converter. But if we go here, that's the one you're building. That's why right now that doesn't work. All right? So what are you going to do? You're going to basically do the same steps that we did. In other words, please look at the screen, especially if you're confused. All right? You're going to want to come in here now. You should not have to make any changes to your shared layout file. That's already been handled. But you're going to have to come in and make a new controller. That controller should be called MPG, big M, big P, big G, big C, ALC. MPG Calc controller. All right? And I don't know if you have to put any code in there or not. I guess it's a little, you do a little bit. What do you have to put in there? You have to put in basically those formulas that I gave you. All right? Then you'll come in and either you'll create the model next, or you'll come and you'll create the view next. So if you do the model, then you do the view. If you do the view, then you do the model. All right? But it's the same type of code. So I will give you, I don't want to take any more time. You've gotten about, let's make it an hour and 15 minutes. All right? And if people say they're done before that, then I'll just start back up earlier. Questions? Yes.
You go back to your next file.
Yes.
The other one. I figured it out. If you just get rid of the output tag, it still doesn't be normal. It's just like that.
Okay. According to Mr. Devon here, that if you remove this output tag, this here, if you remove the beginning and ending output tag, it puts your result on the same line. So it'll say Celsius, then the answer will be on the same line, if you want to do that. I'm just following Mr. Smith's lead here. Again, I'm very thankful to him for creating this.